What's up, everybody? I'm Bob Walters. This is Locked Up Sports. Week 2 in the NFL has come to an end. 2 Monday night games, and they are both, the second one is just about ending. The Chargers on their way to victory over the Raiders, on their way to a 2-0 start. And in the earlier game, Baker Mayfield led Tampa Bay down the field and into the end zone at a last-minute scoring drive, 4th downs, touchdown needed, a great drive by Baker Mayfield. Tampa Bay is 2-0, and as we get here to the local teams, welcome to the show, everybody. Once again, I'm Bob Walters. Jets and Giants, different types of games than week 1 that each of them played. The Jets were impressive in week 1 in a loss. The Giants were embarrassing in week 1 in a loss. Week 2, the Jets were embarrassing in a loss, and the Giants were impressive, and they played one of the, if not the best, most entertaining game of the day on Sunday, and they came up short. And for the Giants, we'll start with the Giants. It was it's the kind of game that they really needed to win. If, just to get a win on the board with this schedule that they have, a brutal schedule. They're looking at possibly 0-8 to start, and there were some questions answered. Russell Wilson is in no danger of losing his starting job yet. It's going to be lost at some point this season. When is the question? But people were calling for his head and calling him to get rid of him after week 1. And was he good in week 1? No, he wasn't. And the Giants as a whole weren't good in week 1, and it was more the same. No touchdowns, field goals. Well, this was a bit different in Dallas against a desperate Cowboys team who had a missed opportunity in week 1 against the Eagles. Lost there, both teams coming in 0-1, and they put on a show in the fourth quarter. These two teams put on a show that the likes of which we haven't seen from the Giants-Cowboys game in a long time. I mean, it was a great, entertaining fourth quarter. 41 points were scored in the fourth quarter, and the Giants had a great drive at the end with less than a minute to go. Russell Wilson throws a deep touchdown to Neighbors. You think the Giants have it. And then, perhaps one of the greatest kickers in the history of the sport, Aubrey for Dallas, comes down and he hits a 64-yard field goal. And he ties it. The Giants missed opportunities in overtime. Wilson turns it over in overtime. And the Dallas Cowboys get away with a win as Aubrey caps off a great day. And, these kicks that these guys are making is ridiculous. I mean, he made a 64-yard field goal to tie the game at the gun. And he made it with about 8 to 10 yards to spare. This is it's outrageous. I wasn't in favor. Last year, you heard some whispers and some chatter about possibly narrowing the goalposts. I wasn't for it at all. I might be for it now. I mean, you get to now your own 40-yard line and you're in field goal range. But they haven't done it, and until they do it, these are the rules they play by. And this kid, Aubrey, is just lethal to have as your kicker. And he won the game for the Cowboys. But as far as the Giants go, listen, Russell Wilson played excellent. He had himself a great game. Wilson was, let's see here, he was 31 of 40 for 450 yards. I mean, he had a game 30 for 41, 450 yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick. And Neighbors with a great game. Neighbors had 9, I believe. Yeah, Neighbors was 9 catches, 167 yards, 2 touchdowns, had a long of 48, which he got on in the waning moments of the fourth quarter to give the Giants a lead. It looks like they're going to get out of there with a win, and then bam, 2 plays, and Dallas is in field goal range, and this kid comes on and just rips a 64-yard field goal with about 10 yards to spare. Sends it to overtime. Giants make a mistake in overtime. Wilson throws a deep pass. Nobody's there. Cowboys pick it off. They get a couple plays. Bam, down to the 45-yard field goal. And Aubrey puts it through. And the Cowboys survive. And they are at 1-1. The Giants drop to 0-2. And the reason, if you're the Giants, you wanted to get that win. I mean, if you look ahead, they got the Chiefs, who are coming in 0-2. To MetLife, opening night, home opener for the Giants, Sunday Night Football. I mean, good luck. Good luck. Now, I know the Chiefs aren't, they're not the Chiefs right now. They're struggling, but they're still the Chiefs. And they're still, head and shoulders better than the Giants. And the Giants are going to be in deep trouble next week. And just going forward, it just gets worse. The Giants realistically could be, at best 1-7, 2-6, at worst, and probably most likely 0-8. 0-8. And, I don't know. It's not really, you could say it's not a fair schedule, but you got to play the schedule that you're given. I get it, but, it's just it's a gauntlet that they have to face here in the opening, 8 or 10 weeks of the season. And this was a chance for them to put a W on the board, get that first win, feel good about yourself, going home Sunday night against the Chiefs. And listen, you feel better than you did after week 1 if you're the Giants or you're a Giants fan, because they put up some points. And listen, both teams, they put up 41 points in the fourth quarter. From the Giants and the Cowboys, Giants are a team that doesn't score touchdowns. Now, they had problems, obviously, with the penalties that killed them, but the referees, they were nitpicking on these a lot, too. Nobody wants to see a game with 38 penalties. The Giants had 20-something penalties. They had like 20 penalties in the first half. It was the most penalties they've had since, I think, in 25 years. You could call a penalty on any play in the NFL, any play. You could call a holding on any play. You could probably call a hands to the face on any play. You could call pass interference on a lot of plays. But they gotta reel it in a bit. Nobody wants to watch a game like that. Now, the fourth quarter, as entertaining as it gets. Back and forth, sticking it in the end zone. A 64-yard field goal. Within the last minute of the game, there was a 48-yard pass for a touchdown to give the Giants the lead with less than a minute to go, and a 64-yard field goal that sent the game to overtime. That's you couldn't ask for anything more. And the week before, the Jets played the most entertaining game. So you're not getting terrible games from these two teams, but you're not getting wins either. And we're going to get to the Jets in a minute, but the Giants, listen, wins are going to be few and far between. And this was one that you had in your hands, and it just let it slip through. And yeah, you can't really say too much. You could sit here and we could talk about whether the Giants were playing too soft to coverage on that last drive with Dallas tied it on the field goal. They probably were. They know what kind of leg that Aubrey has. But, you can't expect someone to make a 65-yard field goal. And they had their chances in overtime, and they didn't score. And they gave it to Dallas one last time at the end of at the end of overtime, and Dallas got into field goal range and hit a chip shot 46-yard field goal. So Dallas survives. They are 1-1. The Giants 0-2, heading home to face the Kansas City Chiefs. And listen, it only gets worse from there. They have a chance against the Saints. Maybe if San Francisco's banged up, they have a chance against San Francisco. But San Francisco's a much better team. I don't think they have much of a chance at all next week. Chiefs 0-2, desperately need a win. Sunday Night Football, prime time. Yeah, look out for that one. But if they went home with a win, feeling good about themselves, 1-1 with an electrifying win in Dallas, there would be some excitement heading into the home opener. And now you're going home 0-2, and then when you go to 0-3 and you go to 0-4, and the calls for Russell Wilson are going to start up again, because this game's going to be forgotten, although he was fantastic. Listen, he shut everybody up for at least a week. 30 for 41, 450 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. And the pick was costly. But, listen, Neighbors had a great game. Giants have some weapons. They have some weapons. Scatterboo was, what you saw this week on Sunday from Scatterboo is what you're going to get. He's a tough, gritty, he's a football player. And you're going to and Giants fans are going to end up loving this kid. And he's going to be big out of the backfield, catching passes. He can run. He can be tough. He's little. He kind of gets, lost in behind the line. He's not going to be running for 100 yards and 1,000-yard seasons, but he's gritty. And he's a football player, and he's going to make nice plays, and he's going to be a weapon out of the backfield in the passing game. Sunday he was 11 rushes, 45 yards. So, nothing crazy. He had the touchdown, the one nice touchdown. He's gonna start to separate himself as the Giants, back. Tracy five rushes, 15 yards, and Singletary 1 rush. And Russell Wilson, Russell Wilson played well, and Russell Wilson has that in him. He's not consistent. He's not going to be consistently a good quarterback and a mistake-free quarterback, but he still has it in him. Those are pretty gaudy numbers. 30 for 41, 450 yards, 3 touchdowns. You're not going to get that. I don't care who you play against. Anybody in the NFL puts up those numbers against any other NFL team, you had yourself a good day. Dak on the other side, 38 of 52, 361, 2 touchdowns and a pick. So, I mean, they put up, 800 yards. The Giants had over 500 yards of offense. The Giants had 506 yards of offense. Dallas with 478. But the penalties, and 26 penalties. Giants had 160 penalty yards. Now, if you're the Giants, you got to clean it up. But I think the refs got to loosen it up a little bit. Like I said, if you want to examine every play, you could call a penalty on any play in the NFL, every single one. But nobody wants to see that. That slows the game down. It's not something, and the NFL's got to do something about it. You can't miss the egregious ones, but you also can't call all the ticky-tack ones. And I think that's what they were doing. There were some obvious penalties, of course, but they were calling some ticky-tack ones. They missed it. They missed an egregious one, an obvious one. The play before Dallas got into field goal range, they called an offensive pass interference. It was not even close. Terrible call. Dallas ended up getting the yardage they needed, kicking a 46-yard field goal and winning the game. But the Giants, listen, this was a game that you wanted to get because you're not going to get many. You're not going to get many chances like this to win many games this season. And the schedule is brutal, and you can blame the schedule because the Giants' schedule is just it's as bad as it gets. It's as rough as it gets. They got Denver. They got the Eagles. They got Washington. They got the Eagles again. They got Kansas City next week. The only winnable games is really New Orleans. And you could say San Francisco and you could say Chicago. But San Francisco's better. And if they're healthy, they'll beat the Giants. And Chicago, looked good in the first week, getting a win. They got blown out as Detroit put up 50 on them. But the Giants lose the game. They're now 0-2. They head home. The Jackson Dart stuff, cool it with the Jackson Dart stuff. He doesn't need to be in the game. He wouldn't have thrown for anywhere, I promise you. Even if he turns out to be, one of the best quarterbacks in franchise history, he would not have thrown for 450 yards on Sunday. There's not going to be a lot of winning here. And Jackson Dart will get it in the game, and he will lead this team at some point this season. Probably somewhere around the halfway point of the season. The Giants might wait until, they get their 8th loss or their 9th loss, and that's when you're eliminated pretty much. They might wait for that. They might be 0-6 might be the number. I wouldn't do it at 0-6. I'd wait at least 8 games. Put him in it. Don't put him into this gauntlet in the beginning of the season, because he's going to do worse than Russell Wilson. That's just the bottom line. He's not coming in to save the season. There is no saving this season for the Giants. It's going to be a lot of losing. You hope to get some games like you got here. Dallas, they have a terrible defense. So you're not going to get, but the positives were the Giants scored touchdowns. Right before this, the last week and the years, but a couple of years before this, it was all field goals. Giants with 3s, not 6s. They finally stuck it in the end zone. They showed you that they do have some weapons. Neighbors with a great game. Wan'Dale Robinson is a good threat down the field. Scatterboo came in and showed you what he could do. So it's not all bad, but again, it's not a win. There are no moral victories. It's not the way it works in the NFL. A loss is a loss. And when you're 0-2 and you're 0-3, you feel like you're never going to win a game. The problem is for the Giants, it might be a while before they win a game. When you get a good team that's 0-2, they start to get desperate. It feels like, we can't. What are we gonna do? When can we win a game? Just ask Cincinnati that from last year, and then ask Cincinnati. They got fans now suing the quarterback. Burrow goes down. He's out for 3 months. I mean, talk about bad luck. The Bengals are the kings of bad luck. Burrow hurts his toe, breaks his toe. There's some ligament damage. He's got to get surgery, out 3 months. But we'll get to around the league in a little bit. 2 Monday night games here last night. You had, like I said, you had Baker Mayfield with a classic game-winning drive down the field, sticks it in the end zone on the road to beat Houston. And then the Chargers took care of the Raiders. And you know how I feel about the Chargers. I think they're one of my favorites. I think they're one of the best teams in the NFL. They moved to 2-0. So the Giants lose home next week, Sunday Night Football, with the Kansas City Chiefs coming into town. We'll see what the feeling is inside MetLife. We'll see if maybe Russell Wilson gets off to a tough start, or do the Boo Birds come out? Do they start lobbying for Jackson Dart? Does Dable maybe panic a bit and put him in before he really should? Now, you're not going to see him next week. That's not really a question. So, but Dable, I could see him because they're going to be calling for Dable's head here at 0-4, 0-5. That's the facts. Because the Giants fans are tired of losing, and they're going to be calling for Dable's head. They're not going to get it, but they're going to make things very uncomfortable for the Giants with Jackson Dart sitting on the sideline and Russell Wilson in there losing games. That's why it was an important game for him to put up numbers like this, because you can't blame Russell Wilson for this loss. There are things you can blame: the discipline with the penalties, the defense on that last drive in regulation, playing soft, 20 yards off the receivers. There are things you could question about it. The pick that Russell threw in overtime. But listen, it wasn't Russell Wilson's fault. And he's not here to win. He's not here to take you to the playoffs. And don't tell me, look how good they were in the preseason. It was all because that's the preseason. It's meaningless. And these games and the beginning of this season should show you how meaningless the preseason was. It really should. Now, as far as the Jets go, disaster. Just a complete no-show for the Jets after a good opening week one, where they went toe-to-toe with Rodgers and they went toe-to-toe with the Steelers, and they got beat on a long field goal, and it was kind of like, okay. Yeah, we lost. We're upset we lost. We should have won the game. There was some drops. There was this. There was that. We kept it close. We lost a tight one. We feel good about it. Well, coming out of week 2, you don't feel good about anything with the Jets. Okay? The numbers are terrible. They were out of the game early. First quarter of this game was almost over. It was 17-0. 30-10 is the final. The Bills came in. Josh Allen came in, a championship caliber team, and they wiped the floor with the Jets. And this is kind of like a throwaway game. If you're the Jets, you throw this one away. I mean, you had Tyrod Taylor, and now Fields is out. He's in the concussion protocol. But I mean, it was the fourth quarter when he went out, and he was 3 for 11. 3 for 11. Fields was 3 for 11 for 20-something yards in the fourth quarter. The Jets had 54 passing yards in the game. 100 rushing yards. They had 154 total yards. The Bills racked up 400 total yards. It was a complete mismatch. 224 yards on the ground for the Bills. They averaged almost 6 yards a play. This thing could have been 50-10. Josh Allen came there, picked apart the Jets secondary early. He was running the ball. The Jets could do nothing on offense. And it was just a mismatch. The Bills came in there and they showed you who the class of the AFC East is. And they showed the Jets how far they really have to go. That's what happened. And if you're the Jets, you throw this one away and you just forget it ever happened. That's what you have to do if you're the Jets. I mean, it was 20-3 at half, and it felt like it was 40-3. The Jets couldn't move the ball, period, on the Bills. They were 0 for 11 on third down. 0 for 11 on third down, the Jets. The Bills ran 71 total plays to the Jets 47. The Jets punted the ball 7 times. I mean, they only turned it over once. Imagine they turned it over, 2 or 3 times. Forget it, it would have been 50-10. And the 10 was a garbage touchdown in garbage time. The Bills had the ball for nearly 40 minutes. 39 minutes they had the ball. The Jets had the ball for 21 minutes. This was complete and utter domination. It was a no-show by the Jets. And the coach said all the right things. We got to be better. I'm to blame. I got to get them better. I got to get them better prepared. Listen, I don't expect the Jets to beat the Bills in a game like this. I really don't. The Bills are head and shoulders above the Jets. They are the class of the AFC East. They are a Super Bowl champion, contender, top contender. If you're a Bills fan, the Bills are expecting Super Bowl or bust. The Jets are hoping to be competitive. But they were not competitive. This was not competitive football that they played. 0 for 11 on third down, 54 passing yards, under 200 total yards. I mean, it was just complete and utter dominance. The Bills came in there, they pushed the Jets around, they dominated them, and the Jets didn't even put up a fight. And now both of these teams are 0-2, and like I said, when you're 0-2 in the NFL and you go to 0-3, it feels like you're never going to win a game. That's just the way it is. So now the Jets have lost to the Steelers and they've lost to the Bills. No shame in either one of those, but the Jets have lost 2 home games. So now they're 0-2 going on the road for a couple weeks. They've already played a quarter of their home games. And they don't have a win yet. Breece Hall, who was so good the week before, nothing. Justin Fields, who was very good that week before, nothing. The Jets defense couldn't stop Buffalo if they had to save their lives. And now the Jets have next week they got the Bucs coming in. You got the Bucs. I'm sorry, they go to Tampa to play the Bucs, who were not a great team, but they're coming off a big win on the road. Baker Mayfield taking them down the field last second, sticking it in the end zone. There were 4th down conversions. They ran the ball with 9 seconds left from the 5-yard line, stick it in the end zone to win the game. And the Jets are coming off a game where they got 54 passing yards and they were 0 for 11 on third down. And they're going into Tampa. Now they're doing the Florida tour. They got Tampa this week. And then Monday night, the following week against the Dolphins, who were just a complete mess. They're calling for the coach's head. They're flying planes with banners saying, fire the coach. He might be gone by the time the Jets get to Miami. And that's only 2 weeks from now. But if I'm the Jets, you throw this one away and you just, you start over. You want to get a win to see if you could go into Tampa, get a win, come out of there, surprise. If the Jets play good enough, they can compete with the Bucs. The Bucs aren't a great team. Jets can play with the Bucs. And they can beat the Dolphins. So, it's not all lost. It's not like the Giants where you're staring down the barrel of 0-8. The Jets, realistically, could get to 2-2. They could be 2-2, headed home, Cowboys coming to MetLife. But after that, and then you got the Broncos. So this is a big. It's going to be a good test for the Jets going on the road into Tampa to play a good Bucs team who's coming off a big win on Monday night. Short week for the Bucs. The Jets trying to just regroup, get themselves together after just an ass whooping at home by the Bills. It'll be an interesting game on Sunday, 1:00. Jets and Bucs. We'll see how they react. Now, around the league, like we said, Chiefs lose the Super Bowl rematch. The Eagles beat them. See how that goes. So, and then There were other big games going on around the league. Oh, let's go through them here real quick. You had the Commanders going in. That was the Thursday night game into Green Bay. They lost. So Washington does not look good now. They're 1-1. They beat the Giants, who really did not play well. They should beat the Giants. They haven't looked good now in either of the first 2 weeks. Packers 2-0. They're the darlings of the NFC. Everybody loves them to come out of the NFC. It's still summertime basically out there. So let's not be talking about who's coming out of the NFC and the AFC. But if you ask people, they're going to tell you Packers is going to be your number one answer. Ravens get even 1-1, 41-17 over the Browns. The Bengals, we said, listen, Joe Burrow, you got to feel bad for the Bengals fans and the Bengals and Joe Burrow. Another year that looks like it could be lost. Now they're 2-0. They did squeak out 31-27 over Jacksonville at home, but they're not going anywhere. They go from a contender, a team that a sleeper team that people like to kind of maybe come out of the AFC to win their division. And now they go with Joe Burrow's out 3 months with some ligament tears in a toe, a big toe, and just, bad news for the Bengals. Now, all the talk about the Lions, the offense, it's not as good. They can't do it anymore. They lost their coach, right? Well, they hung 52 on the Bears at home. They are back now. Now that kind of quiets that. Lions 52-21 winners over the Bears. Dolphins are a mess. Patriots went in there 33-27. It wasn't even this close. It was a blowout early. Miami got some points late. The Dolphins are a disaster. They are the worst team right now in the NFL. 33-27 Patriots over the Dolphins. 49ers 2-0. They beat the Saints in New Orleans 26-21. Steelers, Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers lose. They are now 1-1. Seahawks go into Pittsburgh. 31-17 is the final there. Rams 33, Titans 19. Titans are 0-2. Rams 2-0. 33-19 the final there. Cardinals 27, Panthers 22. Panthers are 0-2. Cardinals improved to 2-0. And the Broncos lose to the Colts. The Colts, and just a disaster for the Broncos. Colts had a game-winning field goal attempt, missed it, but there was a penalty. It was like a 50-something yarder. Missed the field goal attempt. Game over. Broncos win, right? Wrong. Penalty on the Broncos. 15-yard penalty. They hit the center on the field goal. You can't go over the center. 15 yards. Colts get a second chance. They nail it. 29-28. The Colts are 2-0. Daniel Jones and the Colts 2-0 as they beat the Broncos, who fall to 1-1. So the two Monday night games, like we said, Chargers over the Raiders relatively easily. I love the Chargers. I think they're a good team. Geno Smith was not great in this one. He threw a pick on the first play. And, they never really, the Chargers, the game was never really in doubt. And you had the Buccaneers winning in Houston. Just Baker Mayfield takes them the length of the field, 4th downs, score 9 seconds left. It just a great drive, a great game-winning drive by Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they get the Jets next weekend. So that's it for us here at Locked Up Sports. That's your week 2, recap. Head into week 3. Still got some baseball going on. Mets finally got a win. They go back to work tomorrow. And, we'll be all over it like we always are. So don't forget, rate, review, and subscribe. If you want the best NFL coverage on the internet, come right here to Locked Up Sports. Locked Up is our website. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. Just type us into Google. You'll find us. Make sure you leave us a review. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, how we can improve the show. I'm Bob Walters from the Brian Gunzel Studios. We'll see you next week, everybody. See ya.